I didn't know what Gimmick was until about a year ago. For those who don't know, the original was a platformer released back in 1992 by Sunsoft, but it never made its way out of Japan, which is surprising considering how charming and how advanced the physics were for a title at the time. Fast forward to 2023 and we received Gimmick Special Edition, which is essentially just a port of the original with some modern touches of convenience. However, in 2024, we have now been treated with a true sequel in Gimmick 2. I was excited when I first came across the trailer earlier this year, but was also skeptical of the chosen art style for the game. I'm not entirely sure what I was expecting, but it wasn't what I had just seen. I quickly realized that I judged the game too fast, because as soon as the girl is again abducted by her living toys, I was thrown into a beautiful world that felt familiar in Midsummer Meadows, the game's opening level, which also features an updated version of the first level's theme from 1992. Pretty much from here on out, the game continued to both satisfy and impress me from a visual standpoint. Each new level would throw unique looks, including temples, summits, and I guess a fishing factory. You can also expect, of course, some enemy variation, from the green blobs in the meadows to the Deku-like shrubs in Tapul Temple. However, you will of course face off against the classic Ohagai, which I believe is their name based on what Google told me, but they're significantly more aggressive than Mario's staple Goombas. However, they do have a tendency to do this. With level progression comes enemy progression. The Ohagai will begin equipping themselves with new weapons that can be difficult to navigate at times. Something I appreciated about the level design is that there's typically a break of sorts from the linear path, halting the game in place of a new challenge such as a wave of enemies. Even though I enjoyed the enemy design here, it was more so the atmosphere and the soundtrack that sold me. The game is unfortunately short-lived, carrying only 6 worlds, but each one is a worthy experience, offering an organic transitional period halfway through consisting of a new theme and look, so you could almost double that number. The difficulty of Gimmick 2 extends its runtime, having a fantastic balance of difficulty but also fairness. However, the real challenge in my opinion doesn't really begin until after you technically complete the game. You'll need to collect these stickers to unlock the true final challenge, which I'm guilty of not having done myself yet. Gimmick 2 is full of unlockables scattered around each level that are primarily cosmetic. However, there's actually a decent amount of content here offering plenty of customization. I decided to play as Kirby for a bit just because I could. It's not the cosmetics, however, that intrigued me, but rather the search for them. Looking at my overworld map, you can see I'm not great at collecting these. So upon returning to Midsummer Meadows, I only had 3 chests and ended my second run at 5. These are well-hidden items that typically lay behind a more challenging obstacle, allowing you to decide how difficult you would like your experience to be. Also, a nice touch that I enjoyed was the 4 warp points in each level, so you don't need to replay the entire thing if you believe you missed just one item at the very end. Now, just like the original, playing around with the physics of your star is quite enjoyable because it genuinely takes skill. I began the game not able to aim efficiently, so using my projectile to navigate seemed out of reach. By the end of my initial playthrough, I still couldn't use my star too well, but I was good enough to tackle some of the earlier obstacles that I wasn't yet ready for. Something to note is that if you think you're stuck and that riding on your star is impossible, you're probably wrong. The core of Gimmick 2 plays like most platformers. You jump and evade inconveniently placed enemies and platforms. However, using your star is both your lifeline and your weapon. You'll run into plenty of quick twitch scenarios where you're forced to launch your star at a specific target while also trying not to fall to your death, which you'll be doing plenty of. Many scenes almost felt like puzzles rather than platforming, so the experience kind of turned into a blend of the two for me, trying to understand the timing as well as the angle, and some of the boss fights were no different. There's a handful of these depending on what you classify as a boss. As I mentioned earlier, there's certain breaks in the stages that offer a new scenario, such as this guy, which I would not consider a boss. The earlier ones took a few lives from me, but were not overly difficult once you understand the timing. As you advance, you'll notice that the challenge ramps up, such as level 4's final test, which is more of an intense vertical platforming obstacle than a boss. This one took me multiple attempts to finish and was very satisfying to complete. I haven't posted a review on this channel in months because I found that I've become too strict with my process, which has just made creating videos more of a hassle. Moving forward, I want you to come here for genuine recommendations, specifically on indie titles that I think deserve the recognition, which begins with Gimmick 2. If you enjoy platformers, then I can't recommend it enough. I'll of course continue making videos on Nintendo games, but there's a lot of my backlog currently that needs tended to. So, until next time.